Gorgeous souls. This Lionsgate portal is super potent. It's one of the most potent I've ever experienced. Raise your hand if you're on video, if you felt the potency of the frequencies. Yeah. Now, I wanted to take this moment because I wanted to share a couple of things, One, there is a lot leaving the field and a lot being received. And ultimately, the purpose of this Lionsgate portal is just like last year's, is to quantum shift the collective. Like literally, it's this, huge shift taking place. A lot of change can happen through this portal, like lots of change. People could leave the field and or recalibrate. Some of the themes that I've been noticing, and just thought I'd share this with you because some of you may be going through some of this. There's been an additional release of codependency templating, third dimensional relating templating. And what I mean by that is in 3D, the way that we relate to each other is different to 5D. Codependency is a structure that's birthed from third density templating. Codependency, how it looks in the quantum, is that there's literal architecture, quantum architecture, where we plug into each other. And there's cords of attachment between us, and this circulates energy. And so for people like in really close friendships, they'll literally be in their own quantum architecture. And it kind of creates that, beautiful bubble of connection. And depending on the depth of this architecture and the templating that's causing it, what's been happening recently is for those that, this architecture is kind of leaving the collective of those that are ready for it to leave for a different kind of co-creation with this realm. And I wanted to share this with you because if you're going through any of this, I also wanted just to offer some support. I want to draw this up with you 1 sec. The reason why we started off with a column of ascension activation to begin our gorgeous, fun times today is that when we're in our column of ascension, the architecture that we're choosing is to be connected within sovereignty. And what is sovereignty? It means that our energy is tapping straight into our higher self, our soul family, source consciousness, going into the heart of Gaia. We are a part of Gaia. We are a fractal of Gaia, just like we're a fractal of source consciousness in this incarnation. Gaia is not separate to us. We are Gaia, Yet inside of like third dimensional relating and codependency architecture, imagine being in your own column of ascension, but there's also cords coming into other people. And does this make sense? And energetically, as opposed to just having all the energy come from source consciousness and anchored and stabilized into Gaia, there's this. Who here has ever felt really like, this is kind of relating to nervous system work as well, because some people's nervous systems are literally so wired inside of this architecture to feel safe that they need to plug in to other people in order to feel safe. Who here's ever felt unsafe if someone close to you feels to go do something for themselves that doesn't include you? Who here's ever felt a bit abandoned or a little bit lonely or left behind, or who's had those feelings? So none of those feelings are wrong. It's just letting you know that some of the upgrades that are happening right now on the planet is this, this new architecture that's landing into the field. And the new architecture that's landing into the field is more of a fifth dimensional and upwards architecture of relating. And it's more of a network architecture. So what I mean by this is, let me show you with a little drawing. He's drawing something really cool. This is kind of how I see it. So imagine if the old architecture is people that are literally connected to each other with all these quantum cords and cables, cool, which means that if this person's trying to be sovereign and they're getting a directive that's for them, they need to really consider this person's feelings, experience. And by the way, I'm not talking about not giving a shit about other people or calibrating. We all have people in our lives that we co-create with. Co-creation and coming together to form something that works together is very different than fawning, you know, and sacrificing yourself or betraying yourself for other people. Does this make sense? So the old architecture has all these plugins to where family members will be all plugged into each other. Cool. The new architecture that's offered to us, and some of us are going through this initiation at different, we're all actually going through this initiation at different levels, if this makes sense, through this portal, is more like, imagine everyone is in their own column of ascension and we're in a unified field of collective. So it's a collective unified field of resonance. The reason why we're together is because there's a frequency resonance. And like, think of it like we all resonate at the color pink, yet we're all sovereign. And so we come together, and that's what draws us. There's still a deep level of connection and closeness and love. Actually, there's more love that's available inside of this architecture than the old architecture. Yet there's no plug-ins. There's no need for plug-ins. And this is also the architecture that's opening us up for future, where we're going to be able to access even more of our telepathy, you know, to be able to communicate in a unified field. And and that's not through being cabled up, if that makes sense. It's more of like, think of like sonar, like it's a different type of, we don't need to plug into somebody. It's kind of more like wireless, if that makes sense. So I'm sharing this with you because these are deep transformations, full, like complete different architecture to the old architecture. And this transformation can take the next couple of, like the next few years for some. The reason I felt to share it with you is because more and more as we continue our journey of ascension and evolution, we're defining what does sovereign mean? What does it mean to be a sovereign being? And what does it really truly mean to let go of templates, let go of technologies within our field to receive new architecture that's actually more of the light? Sarah says, love that, feels so much lighter, right? Yeah. And it's also inviting us through this portal to really have a look at, you know, these pieces, to have a look at, you know, what could be some susceptibility in our field to still have anything left over that keeps us to some codependency. Yeah, because would you agree with me that, well, let's have a conversation. Does codependency, meaning I need you to feel safe? This is codependency in a nutshell is I need you to feel safe. Yeah. Would you agree with me that that particular operation system is an operation system that we can explore as a soul? And by the way, there's no right or wrong here. If we choose to stay there for the rest of our lives, we can. Yet, can you see how this is not in most harmonious alignment to sovereignty? Sovereignty means I am my own unique fractal of source consciousness tapped into source and a unique fractal of Gaia consciousness. And I am here to honor my unique song, my unique dance, and that's in the truth, that lights me up, that has every atom in my body dance, is the truth I follow. And those around me, when they're in a consciousness stream that's the same, we all allow each other to be free, to be sovereign. We all smile at letting each other do whatever it is that we do. And sometimes we come in and out of each other's lives. Sometimes we go on adventures together and it's okay. Then therefore, the safety is coming from a different place. We know if the safety is not coming from having architecture and an interconnection with other people, family templates are different. 3D family templating is very codependent. It's very interwoven. There's a lot of quantum technology. And unfortunately, some of the realities that creates is that family members can't be free. You know, like when we look at some of the, like, let's explore some templates. For example, and I'm going to stereotype a little bit, but when we look into the Asian culture, you know, there's so much pressure on the children to be and do a certain thing for the honor of the family. Raise your hand if you follow what I'm putting down here. Yeah. So this whole shift, those of us that are taking, those of us that are walking an ascension journey that's a little bit ahead of the general population and most of the world, we're going through these upgrades. We're first receiving this new architecture, these new templates of relating with each other. It's true sovereignty, because then we are the ones that anchor that frequency and stabilize it. So then the rest of the population can move towards that. And they can upload from what's already being coded into, you know, like we are a part of Gaia. So as soon as we hold a new template, that's available in Gaia now. Does this resonate with you? Yeah. This is what it can look like, though. For those of you that are going through this consciously, you could be experiencing that. One, you could be feeling a little bit like under pressure to be and do for others. So the responsibility and the weight of having others that you need to be and do stuff for, and that you can't really follow your own, you know, your own true excitement. So there could be, or it could be, you know, you could also have this with business. You could have, yes, there's like this feeling of, man, when's it my time? Yeah, because the architecture has this whole like, yeah, this whole codependency happening. And it could be with people where you could be starting to get a little bit like, oh, fuck, like, you know, it takes a lot of energy to be around these people and to hold them and to do stuff. So one of it is the, oh, take these plugins out of me, I can't breathe, yeah, experience. On the other side of it, it could be that people around you are kind of pulling away or needing space, and you could be feeling unsafe. You could be like, where are you going? What did I do? And that's the, does this make sense? It's the two sides of this. And then in the unified field, you could also be experiencing small versions of both of it. Yes, feeling this also big time, says Lynn. Thank you. The invitation is simply to know that as we ascend, we're literally letting go of templates and receiving new ones. And it's totally different architecture. Sometimes it can feel a bit full on, and especially through this Lionsgate portal, because this is just one piece of what's coming, what's been, you know, this is one of the upgrades that's currently happening. There are so many other upgrades. They're all around sovereignty, you know, and it's like, what does it mean to discern a frequency, discern the realms of existence, for example? Some people throughout this portal have actually dropped into the lower realms of existence, and it's not a bad thing. They need a little bit more time there to be able to discern and not fall into them again in the future. Some of you may have also had some times where you have maybe dropped into the middle realms of existence. Maybe you got wrapped up in what's going on mainland in the matrix of 3D, what media kind of exposes to us, or, you know, within the lower realms of existence with like looking at some of the darker agendas. And I'm not saying that this is you, but this is happening around. There's all these different layers of sovereignty, and people are going through quite a lot. And then on top of this, there's also a lot of purging happening. So because the light codes that are being shared are of such a high frequency, higher than ever before, like this, the light codes that are shared with us every year get higher and higher, yeah, because we're able to receive them. Yet what this does then is a purge, an emotional purge, a mental purge, and a physical purge, meaning that what's actually happening is multidimensionally. There are other lifetimes that you could be purging. Raise your hand if you've had some emotions coming up, that you've been like had some, what the fuck, where's that come from? And like all of a sudden you're like, man, I feel heartbreak, man, I feel friggin' grief, man, I feel this. And so, yes, and so there's this going on right now. Now, I wanted to share this because the peak of this frequency will be on the 8th of the 8th. And it's kind of like looking at it like, you know, on the 7th and the 6th of the 8th, and now like it's it's going to, over the next 6 days, it's going to go like, and especially like we're literally about to go over a big mountain hill, if that makes sense. So for the next few days, you could find the frequencies intensifying. Yeah. Then they'll be at their highest on the 8th of the 8th. Then they'll start to stabilize again, 9th, 10th. We have our half day. Yeah. On I think the 10th, if I'm not mistaken, which is fine because it'll be at the reason like it's there because I've been guided to not even do anything on the 8th of the 8th. I've for anyone and to tell the people I serve to try and do your best to keep the 8th of the 8th as sacred as possible and to have that day be free. And if you can, the 7th, 8th and 9th. So I'm personally going off grid. The 7th, 8th and 9th, I'm going off grid. I'm even turning like the Wi-Fi off at my home. I'm literally turning everything off. And therefore there's there'll be none of that frequency anywhere inside of my grid. I'm building a whole beautiful little grid workout for myself. And for 3 days, I'm going to be in the quantum, no TV, no nothing, no distractions. I'm going into a sacred space where I'm going to be receiving all sorts of initiations and teachings. I'm co-creating with this portal to go in and to go and do some really deep work with the Lyrans and the Land Project and Magic Camp for Kids. And I'm like, it's going to be the most quantum, personal, private 3-day retreat that I'm having with amazing councils of light, the angelic realm and other things. I wanted to share that with you because some of you could also benefit from doing something similar for yourselves if it aligns for you. And just tune in and see, like, is that also my truth, soul family? Am I also guided to slow things down and really receive this? Because if we're busy, like if we're like doing all these things, then we're not actually allowing this to happen. When we do that, we can find ourselves getting a version of this upgrade that's a little bit intense and a little bit emotional and a little bit chaotic. Does that make sense? So feel in for yourself. If it resonates, if it makes you go, actually, that really resonates, then have a look. You may even want to do like 2 days before, 2 days after. For myself, like, does that make sense? So for me, I've got I'm literally creating a container for myself that 3 days I'm going off grid, but the day before that and the day after, so it's like a 5-day a 5-day beautiful container for myself. There's so much space and flow. And this is what I felt to share with you, that please know that if there's things happening, create some space, breathe into your heart, take some time and, really receive these upgrades. Lionsgate portals are always the most potent portals of the year. Yeah. There are also beautiful beings that have been missioned and to deliver online events throughout this portal. And some of you may want to just go and receive from them as well. I know Rabia's doing one, and to tune into that as well. Yep. As guided by the Acturians. Yep. So there's a lot of support. Long story short, though, put your galactic socks on, put your galactic seatbelt on, because the next, week is delivering a lot for us. And we will be in a completely different universe by the 12th of August. And that's all there is to it. We're all like, cool. Is this helpful? Give me a thumbs up if it's helpful to sort of, ground into this conversation and to strap in and just, otherwise we could, and the last thing, please get as temporary. Like if you have to, some of you may need to write, this is temporary on your wall to remember and not get lost, because some people are also getting a little bit lost in the purge or getting a bit lost in so much shifting and then starting to doom and gloom their life. So if you have done that, or if you've done that in the past, you may even want to just give yourself, write a big sign, stick it somewhere. This is temporary. Just, I'm going through huge upgrades just to support you. And I feel like, yeah,